Hey everybody, welcome back to another iiRcade Game Days live. I'm your host, Michael, executive producer here at iiRcade. So, not a lot planned today, pretty ad hoc actually. I did not have a lot of time with my meetings and everything today to get to anything pretty much. So this is great. It's gonna be a good time for me. I'm not prepared at all. I can tell you that right now. But I showed up. We're here. Let's go. I'm back this week. I've been gone for 2 weeks now almost, right? So last week I was actually away for the first time. I was taking PTO for the first time in like 2.5 years or something like that. So yeah, so here we are. So I took a couple days off, but this week I am back, ill prepared because I'm catching up with everything, of course. And end of the year for us is a very busy time, of course, for Q4 going into Q1. And on top of that, getting ready for a whole nother year of fun coming up. Lots of games, lots of other fun things that we'll talk about sometime then in the near future, right? So, but for today, I just want to stop and say hi. I would have done a pre-recorded show for R-Type Leo. However, I just did not have a lot of time today to throw one together. So here we are doing a live instead. So let's waste some time here instead. I like doing this a lot better too. Live is just more fun. So we do it live. Let's go. All right. We'll do some Q&A later on. First, let's get into our first topic, of course, which is going to be, it's game days, right? So I'm going to talk about R-Type Leo, right? So R-Type Leo is officially on the store today. Let me bring up my R-Type Leo video here. Push me over a little bit. R-Type Leo, in case you've never played it before too, it is, of course, the R-Type series, right? It is, technically speaking, the fourth game in the arcade part of the series. However, this is about the sixth game in for R-Type, actually. Come to think of it, it is sort of a spin-off from R-Type. So R-Type 1 and 2 were the first arcade releases. After that, R-Type 3 was the first console release, never ported to an arcade specifically, right? So beyond R-Type 1 and 2, there were no other arcade games outside of the other two that we actually have, right? Which would be now R-Type Leo and Armed Police Unit Gallop, or if you're in Japan, Cosmic Cop would be the name of that game as well. So now officially from IREM, we do have all four of the only R-Type series games that were ever in the arcade specifically to have their own machines, right? So everything else released on console for R-Type. So in case you ever see any other R-Type, so like R-Type 3 and other things like that too, those are only console games. Those were never released in an arcade. So hence the title today, the last arcade entry, because this is the official last entry for the R-Type series in the arcades themselves, right? Which is R-Type Leo. Again, it's a spin-off game, so it's a little bit different mechanically than R-Type 1 and 2 were. So R-Type 2 kind of leaves off where R-Type 1 left off, whereas Armed Police Unit Gallop or Cosmic Cop, if you prefer that, is a little bit of a different game as well too. Mechanically speaking, it's not quite the press and hold the charge kind of button mechanics that R-Type 1 and 2 have, and neither is this one, right? So you can see at the bottom of the screen here, there we go, it's over here. It's over this way. I've got it, guys. We can do this. So R-Type Leo does have that little charge bar to press and hold mechanic to power up your attacks and things. However, this game is much more based around methodically shooting and picking up the different types of power-ups. So very similar to more of like a Toa Plan kind of shoot 'em up. Those power-ups, they don't build the same way as a Toa Plan shoot 'em up do, but the different colors do kind of different things, right? So that's kind of the point of R-Type Leo. They dabbled into that kind of mechanic system for this game instead, right? So instead of the generic R-Type shoot, press and hold kind of thing. So there is, of course, it's only A and B. It's only a 2-button game, which is great. It's simple. However, it is mechanically difficult to get through, right? This is a quarter muncher, 100%. It's built that way for the arcades. So this game does have global leaderboards. However, caveat to that, of course, is that the score doesn't reset. So 1/4 runs are a little bit different right now. 4 right now, at least, right? For the way the system works. So do keep that in mind. So it does have high scores. Kind of caveat on that one, too. However, it did release as well for online play. Online plays work completely for 2 players. So go ahead and grab your buddies later on too if you guys want to jump on, have some fun playing together for R-Type Leo. All right. Tons of different bosses, by the way, in this game too. I love all the different levels, the different bosses. There's 5 different level types. They range from, outer space tier 2 to, I think we'll get onto it here in area 2. There you go, red hot desert, right? So it does change the enemy types and things like that too. Here, we'll take this off screen. That's all the gameplay I have for that right now. However, there's 5 different levels and 5 different boss kind of mechanics and things like that too, each with increasing difficulties, of course, as you go on. So R-Type Leo, check it out. It's $9.99 on the store today. It's right there at the top with the other recently released games, most of them IREM games, right? So we, of course, announced a lot of these IREM games, these 6, right, that are on the way still. 4 of them now out. We've still got 2 more to go, right, which would be, let's see, Vigilante and Ninja vs. Batman, of course, right? So there you go. And R-Type Leo is a week ahead of schedule now too, which is great. So we released it now instead of the next week coming up. So just because I want to do a little bit different too, different plans for next week now. It's great. So, and of course, we're going to do another holiday special this year too, coming up probably not next week, but the week after, probably on that Tuesday, right? So before we head off for the holidays and things ourselves, while we're checking all of our boxes here, closing up for the year for a little bit too, until we reopen in sometime in Q1, right? So in January, come about then. Let me see here. Man, this stream is festive. Yes, that is true. This is what I did last year, right? You guys don't remember this? This is my border from last year. I reused so many assets here when I save my time. That's how I save time. So welcome to production life. This is how you do it, right? Reuse all the assets you can. You don't even notice I reuse assets apparently, so it's great. It works out fantastically for me, for the show. All right, let me see. Did I miss any other questions? So Ninja Baseball Batman next week? No, we are not announcing a release date yet for Ninja Baseball Batman. Maybe it's next week. Maybe it's the week after. Maybe it's next year. We have not put any release date on Ninja Baseball Batman specifically. We do plan on having Vigilante, the other IRM game that we have still in our pocket right now, coming up in January 6th, I believe would be the date. Could potentially be earlier than that. That was a tentative release date for all these IRM games. However, that's still currently on schedule and on the plan. So we'll see if we get Vigilante out potentially before that, but still planning on January 6th for Vigilante. Ninja Baseball Batman, different story on that one, right? So stay tuned on that. That comes with some other things that we're trying to get out the door for software, right? We'll talk about that as well too, actually, today. For now, any questions on R-Type Leo, the R-Type series? We've got, again, all 4 that ever released in the arcade specifically, right? So R-Type does have other games in the series. However, R-Type 1, 2, Armed Police Unit Gallop or Cosmic Cop, if you're in Japan, and of course, R-Type Leo are the only 4 R-Type games to ever release with dedicated arcade cabinets. Everything else is a console-only game for R-Type. Let's see. We will get to other questions about other software. Right now, I'm on R-Type Leo in the R-Type series. So we'll talk about other things coming up in just a bit here, guys. If we have no other questions on R-Type Leo, I can move on to those things, I guess. It's true. However, I love this game. The R-Type series games in general. I'm a big shoot 'em up fan, if you didn't know. Shoot 'em ups and RPGs are kind of my favorite genre in general, but RPGs are a little bit different in an arcade style game than, shoot 'em ups are like built for arcades, right? They're score chasers. I'm very much a high score chaser. R-Type Leo is one of my favorites too. I'm super stoked that we got this game actually, kind of out of left field, which is great. I wasn't really expecting to get R-Type Leo, and I'm really glad that we have it because it capstones the entire series. And it is a very different punch of a game than R-Type 1 and 2 are especially, right? And Gallop as well, included in that mix. So R-Type Leo just mechanically is very different visually. Sort of the same, a little bit improved, of course, too, as the years went on too. This is a later game in the series, of course, so it does look a little bit more crisp and clean. There's a lot more going on with enemies. And it is very much a bullet hell compared to the other ones, right? It's not just dodging enemies and bullets a little bit too, but sometimes, you've shot this thing, it blows up, and now you're just surrounded by everything, and you're dodging, weaving, and ducking through everything else, right? So that's why I like this game a lot as well too. The challenge is definitely there. All right, well, cool. Easy day for me. No questions on R-Type Leo. All right. Oh, wait, maybe there's one. Did you start? Okay, here. Shampoo Swan. Also, Shampoo Swan was asking me too. R-Type Leo did release as well too. I have it in the system right now with Rapid Fire on. So Rapid Fire is accessibility feature that we've had on the system for quite a bit now, right? We released earlier this year. I can't talk today. So this does have Rapid Fire as well too if you do prefer to play it that way. Just as a heads up on that one. Anyway, Shampoo Swan's asking me, do you start from checkpoints when you die like the first 2? Yes. Yes, you do in R-Type Leo. I believe it depends on how many times you have died specifically, though. A little bit more, because it does let you continue on at some points, and other points it puts you back to a checkpoint. So it really depends on when you die. Let's see. Am I ready to get worked over on the leaderboards? Yeah, probably. But again, leaderboard's kind of like Rasted for this game, right? So you can do 1/4 runs, but it's got to kind of be streamed. You kind of got to do it live or else people won't believe you, because this is kind of just a quarter eating game where you can just kind of keep pumping in quarters to get a higher score. In fairness, it is definitely a bullet hell, but yes. All right, a fetch title. I guess you can call it that. I'm excited. I love R-Type. Oh, test 99, here you go. Yeah, wait, rapid fire is an accessibility feature across the board in iiRcade for all the shmups. So it'll list it on the game themselves, right? So not all of them have it because of different mechanical things, right? So when we added this, it kind of came with that. While we can put it in for every game, yes, because we design our software smart for that reason, right? Because I can just turn stuff on pretty easily. It's great. Do that for great reasons. However, yeah, it's not every shmup because some shmups and other games particularly, it's not just shoot 'em ups that have accessibility feature too. There's actually some beat 'em ups, I believe, and some other arcade games that have this feature in that we've included. It depends on the game due to mechanics of the game, right? So certain games you can't do it. It's also why you'll see why we put them on different buttons, right? Because there are press and hold mechanics of some of these games that kind of make it so that you can't just press and hold a button and then have it shoot in rapid fire, right? Because you have to press and hold for certain mechanics, right? So some games can't really do it for that reason, just because they're not designed for it. However, we try to put this into as many features or as many games as possible. Again, if there's a game that doesn't have it currently and you guys feel like there's a game that needs a rapid fire too, right? Just for whatever reason, you don't want to spam a button, you can't spam a button, whatever it might be, right? So let us know. If it doesn't have it, we can look into that and see if there's a possibility for that. Yep. Can't catch them all, right? It's not Pokemon. However, we try. Any R-Type console version released? There's no other R-Type games currently announced. So how about that? I'll give you that one. There's some good R-Type games, though, too. If you've never checked them out before for the rest of the series games, sorry, I'm sliding back on my chair a little bit here. I'm getting used to the different studio setup, right? With the Cavs behind me, I'm still like, there's a thing at my feet. It's a whole thing. Anyway, behind the scenes action. So, yeah, the R-Type series games, if you never checked out the console games, too, they are totally worth a look if you have options to try them out, too. We don't currently have those. However, we do have all 4 of the arcade releases, right? So, but yeah, R-Type series in general, there's not really a bad game. Again, iRem makes really good games, especially arcade-style games. Like, they're just good. In the Hunt is another one of my favorites, too. Of course, Kung Fu Master is iRem as well, too. One of the classics, one of the first beat-em-ups, technically speaking, of all time, right, is Kung Fu Master, which is awesome. We've got plenty of iRem titles, too. If you go to the store and search by iRem, I-R-E-M, iRem, they'll all pop up for the ones that we have. Yeah, I believe there's about 16 or 15 released right now in the store. Sounds about right to me. Yeah. Could be more. How do I access rapid fire? So one, make sure your system's up to date for one, right? Please update your systems. It's very important that you update your systems. We do these things for a reason, right? I actually removed one of the system updates. Anyway, whole thing. Rapid fire is right there in your system. There's still a bug currently in that's being fixed. So it does actually display with rapid fire and accessibility is on, even though it's actually off to begin with. So by default, it is off for this feature. You do have to turn it off and on to actually turn it back on. Just saying, or select on, and it'll be correct. However, it lists on, even though it's off to begin with. Confusing, I know. Bug fixing. Don't worry. Beyond that, yeah, rapid fire is on every single machine behind me here too. Again, if the game has rapid fire in it, which a lot of the shoot 'em ups do nowadays too, if they needed it, essentially, right? And a handful of other titles too. If your rapid fire feature is on in these settings, it's under settings, and then accessibility. I think it's just the accessibility menu, right? You'll see rapid fire right there, and then you can turn it on and off, toggle it right there. As long as that's on, and then you launch the game that has accessibility feature in it for that, it'll show you the buttons that are listed with blue. It's accessibility is listed as blue on the instructions page, and then the buttons that it'll use as well too. And then from there, it'll just be, if it's like a rapid fire game that's like, spamming a button, that spam button will be press and hold, will react as a spam. I do try to work with QA heavily on this to essentially balance it out. So you pressing and holding a button with rapid fire is not the same speed that like someone like me who can spam very fast spams. So it's about half that speed essentially, right? It is fast enough by far to get through the game and progress naturally and have a good time with it, right? That's the point of the feature, so that everybody can play and have a good time. And, not everybody can spam a button for 4 hours at a time like I can. We get it, So like, we don't expect you to. You don't have to play that way too. Some of us are getting older too. My arthritic hands hurt all the time too. So no worries. If you want to play that way, go for it. But yeah, competitively, you have no competitive advantage on a leaderboard if that's what you're worried about. If you have rapid fire on, we do that for good reason. Right. Cool. Talking about rapid fire. It's been a long time. All right. Any other questions on that? Can't comment on games I can't comment on. As always. By the way, I hope you guys are liking your Yule logs. Of course, I brought back the Yule log this year too by popular demand last year. Everybody, when they left in January, was asking me to bring it back. So I brought it back for, of course, tis the season, right? It's the holidays. They're upon us, whether you like it or not, they're here. So here we go, right? So we brought back the Yule log. Hope you guys all like it too. If not, you can always put on different games of track mode too. Of course, it's always a feature on the system. We don't take away the track modes for the game. They're still in the game themselves, right? So, but for now, enjoy it. I try to keep the game volume down, keep the fire crackling. We'll keep adding different logs and stuff maybe as the weeks progress here. We'll see. But the Yule log's here. Let's see here. Again, can't talk about license. I can't talk about it yet. All right, we can get into this topic right now too. So, because I see at least Jolly Green's asking about it too, and some other people asked earlier on. So software we've talked about already and announced this year. Again, we don't pull release dates on things for a reason, right? So it's great. We are still planning on, of course, having both light guns as well as 1 4-player online included. 3 light guns, 4-player online gameplay that we've already showed off as well at Game & Brew, as well as, of course, we announced earlier on this year too, back in June, accessories, especially partnering with Glenn's Retro Show products. So shout out to them. So yes, GRS products and Thunderstick. Still working on getting those online and active. So very easy on the golds, of course, too. Through Bluetooth, it's a little bit trickier. That's really the hold up on that, honestly. So don't blame GRS for that. That is 100% on us for the software side of things too. So we work very heavily with them too. But yes, so we, of course, have a lot of projects going on at this time of year, as well as things that you guys don't know behind the scenes that we do other projects on. That's fun, right? So also, I'm sorry if I look down a lot too. I'm trying to get used to my camera being up there. Different setup here. That's how it goes. But yes, we are still targeting to have light guns as well as 4-player online and the controller accessories, including Bluetooth, not just plugged in, working before the end of the year. Still targeted. It's still looking pretty good. I make no promises, of course. However, that is still the goal, and we are pretty much good on point on that one too. Yeah, we wanted to have it out a little bit earlier this year. I'm not gonna lie. However, things change. Software is a tricky beast sometimes, right? So here we are. We're a small company. We're a small team. Our engineers work day and night. They are working very hard on this stuff to get it out to all you guys too. And of course, there's only the initial release of it too. After the initial release, things can kind of get a little bit easier for us, improvements and things like that too. And of course, I know that you guys want other features too. We've talked about the global lobby system for online play, as well as improvements to online play in general too. On top of that, of course, adding 4-player online for certain games that wanted to, such as Ninja Baseball Batman, right? Ninja Kids, other things like that. So there's other games, I just can't think of them right now too. Alien Storm 3 players, that's another one too I want in there too. So these are features that we're still working on, of course, in the back end that are sort of in the forefront currently, waiting to get released. And once they get released, then we can sort of backtrack and get to some other fixes as well too. There's, of course, other features that we want. We've talked about, of course, the UI overhaul too, which is coming. Probably not making it this year, unfortunately, too. I'm sorry to say on that one. Realistically, it's just how it goes. For a very good reason, honestly, too, that we can't get into yet. We'll get into that earlier next year, probably, too. However, yes, UI overhaul is coming. It's still determined to be coming. When that is, I can't necessarily say. I tried to ballpark it before end of this year. That was the plan. It is being worked on very heavily right now, just in a certain capacity compared to our other features right now, like Lycons and stuff, right, that we want to get out. So there you go. That's kind of all I have for software. We can talk about that a little bit here. Let's see. Prince has a question, something about rated games. Oh, see, Rich O'Dell, sorry, I just got to the UI stuff, right? So just got this. The feature of the store will be included in the new UI and the feature. Yeah, so having the store on the machine has always sort of been a thing that I wanted, honestly, from day one. But yes, it's always been a planned feature, and that will come more so with the UI overhaul that we're working on, right? So stick around, stay tuned on that too. Yes, it would be great to have those features integrated into the system. Of course, it makes natural sense for you guys, for us as a business. It's a whole thing, right? So it just makes sense to have. That is something that's, yes, being worked on for the future. Again, when that releases, I can't say right now. I don't want to make you promises. Yeah, so there you go. But yes, that is being worked on. Prince is asking a question here too. Prince Malcolm's asking, there was a question posed on what type of rated games come to iiRcade. Being that there is privacy settings or child lock, are R-rated games diminished from coming? I don't know why you would say diminished necessarily. We have M-rated games on the system already too. Technically speaking, Gunbird is an M-rated game. Shout out to Rainwater from way back when we had, so Gunbird has different scenarios in it, and one of them does have nudity in it too, which was unable to be edited out of the game, but he caught that way early on in the system, and we were able to kind of retroactively change that, add the rating systems in, and add the parental lock features in around then anyway too, which is great. So it's great. So there is some games that are M-rated games on the system currently. You can actually search by rating as well too. You can lock both the store to view M-rated games that are purchasable, as well as games on the system itself can be locked. You can lock your system for whatever you want pretty much at this point, which is great. So we have all those safety features in there. Are M-rated games coming? Maybe. Sure. We have a lot more games coming. So yes. Do we not do M-rated games? Of course we do. I mean, Dead Effect 2 is a pretty gruesome game, honestly, that's on the system right now too. That's an M-rated game too. On top of that. Am I trying to put like adult-themed games? Not particularly on the system, right? Do they make sense in an arcade format? Maybe. It depends on the game, right? It all depends on the game. But yeah, there's some games that are more mature than others too, and we'll mark them that way, of course, too. And every time that we do release an explicitly M-rated game too, that's like very M-rated too, we do try to be very on top of that on the streams and things like that too, and really let you guys know, like, hey, this is an M-rated game. Please check the ratings. They are on the store to begin with. But beyond that, yes. If you don't want M-rated games, you can sort and filter the store to not have them. You just go to your account at the top left, account settings, and then there should be a rating setting there that you can just toggle on and off mature rated games if you don't want to see them or you don't want your kids to see them. It's your own prerogative, right, at that point. So great. Filter option for games in the store that you don't already own. It's being worked on. Yep, that's been something that I've wanted on the store for a long time now as well too. Again, we're a small team. You fight the battles you need to choose. There's a lot of backlogged issues. So I'm losing my voice a little bit today. A lot of meeks. But yes, there's a lot of backlogged issues, kind of like this one as well too, that features that we wanted to include. But on top of that, it's not just adding on features right now too. There are things that we're going back and retroactively fixing that you guys might not even notice, but we are fixing those. There are things that are still needing to be fixed and needing a little bit more love before we want to pile on new features, right? So I do want to go back and fix things. That's kind of a bigger focus right now, other than adding new features. This particularly may be added in sooner than later, but we'll see, yes. The store itself kind of needs its own love and overhaul for UI. I'm very well aware. Sometimes you have to ship a product. That's just how it goes, right? So, and then you got to fix it retroactively after that a little bit, right? So for us, especially as a console, it's just how it goes as a company, how we had to do it, right? So especially with one machine, one device, that really feeds into an overarching software solution, which is really what we are as a software platform, more than a hardware platform, honestly. So yeah, so there's a lot of things that we kind of released with as a baby software platform, right? And then in its infancy, it's getting out of its infancy now, right? Moving into year 3 coming up here. So we're really 2 years old as of Christmas Eve. December 24th, we released officially December 24th, Christmas Eve, 2020, right? So yeah, that was officially the launch, I would say. That's really our launch of iiRcade, in my opinion. That's when people started getting their systems up. We released the store with 36 titles, 34 titles, 36 titles at the time too. And it's grown from there to hundreds, which is great. So over the last 2 years. So it's been a lot. And I've had one vacation technically, right? But yeah, there's a lot of features, of course, that we know you guys want that we're working on in the back end. However, there are fixes and things that we need to get to as well first. So keep that in mind. It's a slow process sometimes too. We move very fast, honestly, for a software company compared to a lot of things, honestly. It's great about being a small company. You can kind of tackle those pretty early on and pretty quickly. You can kind of weed them out really quick, which is great too, rather than a company that's been around for decades, kind of going over back-end systems that have been that way. It's hard when your systems have been there in place for a long time. Changing those is hard. Dinosaur systems are very hard to get rid of. So it's nice about being in your infancy as a company. Let's see here. What other questions can I get to right now too? Again, I don't want to make promises on software features other than the ones that we've already talked about currently, which would be light guns, of course, adding the support for accessories and decks and things like that too, as well as 4-player online that we've shown off. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just going through questions. I got lots of questions, lots of viewers. I get 4 different streams now getting fed into the same chat that you guys don't see. Reviews for games and things like that too. Yep, that's always been something I've wanted. Rating systems, things for games, for community rated things on the store itself too. Of course, again, these are features that we want to have. It just takes time. That's all it really is too. It sounds like it's simple. It's never simple. It's software. It's never simple. I can tell you that too. Small, sort of small things. It's not as easy as you ever think it is, which just the nature of the beast. And again, there's things I really want to fix first before I really start tacking on more than we've already kind of announced, right? So, and we have other projects going on too. Let's see, underwater cops too. I'm not sure what that is. Let's see here. Sorry, going through questions. If you got a question, please put a bunch of asterisks or question marks or things. I can pop through the chat a lot quicker that way too. No to censorship. Yeah, so maybe we'll have like different versions of the game. We've talked about that before too, potentially releasing like a clean version of the game versus an uncensored version of the game. You can kind of pick and choose as a customer. That's a long ways away likely, honestly, if I'm being totally honest on that too. If we're going to release a game, it'll be the uncensored version. We'll put a mature rating on it is really what it's going to be. So I kind of prefer that myself too. I don't want to stifle artistic license in games as well too. So, you know, these aren't necessarily our games. We license these games, right? These are other developers and other publishers' games too. So if it's going on in the system, it is kind of our choice to, you know, bring that on. If we don't want a game because it's a certain theme, adult theming and things like that too, we just won't bring it on. That's kind of how it goes, right? Yes, Pippies and BBs would be the one example I would say that kind of got released in a certain state too. But that's also because it's included with the system. Earlier days, right? This is long earlier at the company. Let's see here. Other questions I can go on to. This is a fire sale. No, it's an annual sale. We always have. Golds are not half off right now. They're $200 off. They're the same price as pre-order price. So there you go. Zhongpong update. It's about 2 more weeks back now than whatever the original date was, which was never. One day. Let's see here. This is an interesting question that actually never really gets asked too often. So Test99. One day we'll get you a real name on here, Test99, I swear. Question, is there a process to transfer OG cab profile to gold cab to not lose high scores, or are those all local? So currently they're all local within the machine itself, too, depending on the game, technically speaking. However, yeah, pretty much by and large, the majority of the games, especially the arcade games, not the more modern games, those are saved within the system itself, too. So you're going to lose your high score data 100% whenever you transfer from a standard edition cab to a gold cab, if that's what you're doing. Your account is the same, however, so you can use the same account. All you do is log in again on this device. You've already purchased these games one time. That's all you had to do. And then you just download. The cab will pop back up. Once you log into the cab, you log in on the store on the same device, the device will pop up and you can actually install those games that you've already purchased onto the new cab. So that's how that works. Yep. Just like any other console, like an Xbox or PlayStation or Switch, works the same way. Your account is tied to your email. Your account is tied to you. Those games are tied to you, right? So it doesn't matter if you're switching to a new unit or not. You can just reinstall those games, right? But yes, the scores themselves too, the data itself is not transferred to any kind of cloud backing currently. So because of that, it is specific to the system. So with that, it is local data only. It's kind of how it goes, right? Your high score, however, on the leaderboard for our global leaderboards does not get erased. So say you bought a new Space Invaders cab or something like that, right? So, and you're playing a game like R-Type Leo, right? So if you're playing R-Type Leo and you played it on a previous cab and you have a high score on the leaderboard, and then you go to a new cab, your leaderboard score is still the same no matter what until you beat that score. It's gonna remain there. So that's tied to your account on the back end. It's a good question though. Question, I purchased apparel. Oh, apparel questions I never get too. I purchased some apparel at the beginning of in November, but I haven't received any shipping details. Shopify hasn't responded. It's not Shopify. So the apparel is actually done through an outside company, essentially too, right? So it's print to order. So we don't do like big stocks or anything too. That's really not our stock at all too, because we're not in the apparel game and we don't plan to be, right? So this offloads it onto them a lot easier. So it's through a different company. So it's ordered through our site. I think you can pay with Shopify potentially, right? However, that's all done through them. They don't really send email notifications, things like that too. That doesn't get shipped out the same time frame as our stuff does too. They're very quick about it. Sometimes you'll receive it within a week. Other times it'll take like 3 weeks or so. So if you just ordered it in November, especially late November, I wouldn't really expect it probably, especially this time of the year because of shipping all over the place. For probably, add an extra 2 weeks, honestly. So, but yeah, it's not really run through us. It's run through a different company. Jukebox update at some point. It's got to come out of beta at some point, right? Jukebox was an extra feature that was only added on through the Kickstarter. Even though the Kickstarter goal for Jukebox was not met, we just wanted to be nice and give that to everybody. So Jukebox was never really an intended feature. It's sold with the system, right? Technically speaking. Because of that, it kind of gets a little bit less love. Eventually, it will get some love. I promise you that, because it is still in beta and we keep that tag on it for a reason, right? However, by and large, Jukebox works as intended, right? You can connect and everything. It's got the equalizer system that works and all that stuff. And you can utilize the speakers, especially the JBL on the Gold. So, sorry, I was responding to this question. I never put it up on screen. All right, here. What else I got today too? Short show today. Nothing else to really talk about today. Again, very ad hoc for me. DLC support. Interesting. We'll get into that topic when we get into that topic. Some games do come with DLC already included in them as well too. Or certain types of them, right? You see, like Retromania now has DLC included as well too. Interesting question here from Weapon Epics. I like this one a lot. Are there any plans to include both local and overseas versions of the same games, especially Japanese games? Yeah, we do have a lot of Japanese titles, right? Trickier. Again, I'm not making any promises on this, but it's something that we've thought about for sure 100% too. It'd be cool to be able to do that. It also depends on licensing. So certain companies don't want us to have a specific version of the game, be that a US version, be it a European version, be it a Japanese version, Korean version, things like that. Sometimes it's a worldwide release only versus the Japan exclusive kind of thing. So it does come down to licensing a little bit on that too. It is their games. Ultimately, it's up to them to tell us which version that they would like us to put onto here, right? And then make that work. So that's kind of a little trickier, but maybe. I'm not saying no to this. It's a cool idea, and I've thought about this so many times. It's kind of rare that games are different in, say a Japan version versus a US version, other than the naming really too. And in case you haven't noticed too, Alien Storm itself too, we didn't release the US version. We released the Japanese version because it has the camera flash in it, and that's what Sega wanted. So that was a fun one. I remember that one. So yeah, that's why you might see some Japanese in some of these games too. Let's see here. Other questions. I'll take maybe a handful more questions before we call it a day, maybe 5 more. Nothing too crazy today. Got a lot of work. Got a lot of work to do right now. Do you know when Tempered Glass will be available again? Tempered Glass is always available. It's available right here in our office. That's why it shipped actually here from Chicago. So we have plenty. It's getting shipped out right now. I can tell you there's more downstairs. I can tell you that. So it's really up to FedEx to come pick up the orders and do their due diligence. So we are not a shipping company. It is up to FedEx. So when I see it sitting down there, it's the order's in. They're supposed to pick it up. They gotta come pick it up. That's how it goes. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, after it actually leaves here, it only usually takes maybe 2-3 days. But yeah, so glass is fully in stock. We got plenty here. Plenty. I mean, it runs low in stock. We replenish the stock often enough. But yes, there's actually glass behind the camera right now, which is fun. Let's see. But yeah, Tempered Glass is here. It's readily available. If you make the order, yeah, it ships out immediately from our team, just up to FedEx to get off their butts and come take it. Let's see. You can't talk about these games that I can't talk about. Can't talk about unannounced licenses. You know how I work. I'm a very tight-lipped producer. Let's see here. Can't take these questions about games that aren't released yet. Again, just answer this question 100%. It's up to the licensor on that one. Yes, John Pong is releasing 2 weeks from never. Correct. That is the correct and absolute date. Let's see here. If you want a name off the leaderboards, I mean, if it's one account, it's just got to beat it. You just got to beat that score. That's how that works. Until it puts a higher score up there, that's how it goes. Thoughts on iiRcade hot pants? I mean, the joggers I have, by the way, from the website are actually very nice. So they're really comfy, and I wear them all the time in my apartment. Just saying. Hot pants? I don't know. You know, slap an iiRcade logo on the butt? Maybe. Let's see. Can't talk about games I can't talk about. So again, I'll take 3 more questions here that I can actually answer. Let's see here. You did not miss news on Ninja Biscuit Batman, other than I haven't announced Ninja Biscuit Batman release dates. I can't say that name for some reason today. All right. Those of you asking questions that have been answered before, you're just going to have to watch the replay. That's how it goes. I'm not going over them again. I've already taken this question too. We've already talked about this at the beginning. You don't have to watch it on the replay. I'm so sorry. When's my Soul Calibur cab coming? Jeff, one day, I'll be able to answer that question, I swear. One day. Okay. Any other questions I can actually answer? We can call it a day. I'm good. Again, very ad hoc today, especially. R-Type Leo, talking about software coming out. That's it. Are the Gold Cab shipping now? Yep, they are actually too. So if you did order shipping, or if you ordered a Gold Cab, they are actually. I should talk about the sale. It's true, right? I should plug everything, right? It's great. What kind of producer would I be if I didn't plug our sales, right? Sorry, I'm sliding my chair around right now. So Gold Cabs are shipping. Yes, they are at the warehouse. They're shipping now. So if you ordered a Gold Cab, they are starting to ship. So check your email for that too. Again, caveat, we are not a shipping company. I will remind you of that. It is shipped through FedEx. So our warehouse, when it leaves there, send you an email notification from your order. And it says, it gives you the tracking number and stuff like that too. It's kind of all I can give you. If you message our CS team, that's all they can give you as well too. So unfortunately, that's how it goes. Yeah, the FedEx app I hear is better for tracking. We use FedEx, by the way, because they're international. That's really why we have to kind of abide by them. That's kind of how it goes, right? I wish there was a better option. There's just not. If I could teleport things, that's what I would do. Trust me on that one, too. It'd probably save me a lot of cost anyway. But yes, so Gold Cabs are shipping. If you are looking to pick up a Gold Cab, by the way, too, while they're still on sale for the holidays, now is the time, one, to make it here potentially by Christmas. Yeah, or any other holidays you might be celebrating. Yeah, so now would be the time to order 100%. We're looking to hear by then. It should. I can't make a promise, but it should if you order like within this weekend kind of thing too. I wouldn't push it later than that because you're just rolling the dice at that point, honestly, too. Expedited shipping and everything included. It's just how it goes, right? Gold Cabs are still $200 off right now, too. The remaining cabs for standard edition are still $300 off as well, too. 64 gigabyte models, I think, are still remaining as well, too, which are slightly cheaper by like $100. However, I think they're mostly in the 128 gigs. I guarantee we got Retromania left, as well as at BestBuy.com. There's Retromania left if you're looking to pick it up. So they might have other deals. Just saying. So beyond that, if you're looking to get a gold, especially right now, too, pick them up while the prices are still there. We are running very low on supply already, too. So we've been blessed with a lot of orders, which is great. So it's great. We make a new shipment and it's gone, which is pretty much it's awesome for a company, right? So we're glad we got more more players in the ecosystem for us. But yes, if you were holding off on for whatever reason on picking up a gold and you're kind of on the fence, now is the time. I don't know when you're going to see gold in stock after this, as well as even standard edition too. We'll see when we restock sort of coming in the upcoming year and how that plays out a little bit too. So again, if you are looking to not miss out on that stuff too, not to FOMO you or anything like that too, but if you are looking to get one, pick up a gold now. If you want to hear about the holidays, especially, and if you want to hear for that price. And then after that, I don't know when you're going to see gold again. I make no promises on when they might come back next year. So we might have them back in stock. Let's see here. Other questions that I can take. I'll take 2 more questions. This is a great Super Game Room dudes. Just a comment. Working from home and listening to iiRcade Ulog track mode behind me is very soothing while I type away. Glad it's back. Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the volume low in it too. I don't know if I like the crack. It feels like it cracks too often for me. It pops a little bit too often. If you guys don't like the ambient sound of the Ulog, please let me know. I can change it a little bit too. We can see what other kind of sounds I can put with it too. Yes, the not to spoiler alert, the audio that goes with this particular Ulog or log burning is not actually the audio that I have playing right now. Just saying, so because it was very poppy and I don't like it. So yes, if you want it more soothing, we can try and do that too. I'm not doing like lo-fi Ulog channel over here. However, yes, we can change that sound a little bit too. Question I always get asked. We can talk about this because this is Gamedaze. All right, and I'll stop moving in and out of my mic. I'm sorry, I have that habit. I'm not a streamer by any means. So sorry, guys. I'm an executive producer and a game designer. I like to stay behind the scenes. I don't really like to be in front of the camera even at all, even though I was a previous performer and an acrobat and things like that. Weirdly enough, being in front of the camera is not my comfort zone. So I do move in. I do like nervous fidget a lot too. I don't mean to. Something I'm trying to combat. I know I speak very fast too. So I try to slow myself down. I'm still getting kind of used to that too, especially for people who don't speak English as a first language. I'm so sorry if I speak very fast for you. Please always feel free to tell me in the comments to slow down my talking, and I see it, I will do so. So no worries. I won't take offense to it. I promise you that. I know I talk fast. Anyway, getting back to the topic on point, Gusfin's asking, how do you guys decide what games to bring to the system? It really all depends. We don't really like to limit the system. We talk to a lot of game publishers and developers, and who knows what else I talk to, right, to bring in games all the time too. We have a lot of games that are getting worked on in the back end still right now currently, and we're working on future titles and different propositions for those as well too, of course, right? So always going to keep bringing new games in. That's the plan. That's always what we're planning on, right? So bringing more games into. We don't try to limit the system. Not every game's going to be for you 100%, right? So we've seen that proven with some certain titles, right? So I'm not even going to pull them up. But I do try to limit it a little bit more. We are a little bit more picky nowadays too with different types of games that come to the system that might or might not fit. We're a little bit more picky on it a little bit, but not too much, honestly. So again, licensing is a tricky beast too. It doesn't always come down to just throwing money or system sales or things like that at a company. They just might not have time. That's also a big hurdle that we have, especially with like indie developers, even bigger studios too. They want to devote their time to a certain project, and then they want to get back to us after that too. It's no fault of their own too. Companies work in their own way too. They have their own prerogatives and motives and things like that too. Money is usually that. However, again, throwing $1 million at a company does not mean that you're going to get a license, right? It's just not how it works all the time too. It also depends on, do they want to work with other publishers on our system, right? So sometimes certain licenses, especially in an arcade, sorry, I should say, we're a console, but we're still in an arcade form factor, right? So because of that, we do have the fun time doing different licensing deals based on certain publishers that may or may not want to work together, right? So other companies might not have that. That's also why they limit the titles that come out on their particular systems that they release. We don't have that luxury. So we have to sort of bite the bullet, and we have to not strong our way in, but we have to figure out different tactics and different ways to talk to them and let them know, like, hey, like, this is a great deal for you kind of thing too. Yeah. Anyway, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I won't get into all the details and caveats of licensing that we go through versus other companies and stuff, but we're a very new system still. Keep that in mind too, and a very different concept compared to other things too. Some compare us to a console. We call ourselves a console because that's what we are ultimately, is with our software. We're a software company, not a hardware company. We're not trying to make a realistic approach to just one form factor of an arcade and things like that, right? So we kind of stick to our own because it works for us and for the games that we bring out, right? That's not to say that we're always going to stick to this form factor in the future, right? However, we're not making replicas here. We're trying to deliver an arcade experience as well as a console experience at the same time, right? So it's never something it's sort of been done here and there. It hasn't really been done the way that we're looking to do it and the way that we're trying to do it. And conceptually, it's hard to bring certain developers on sometimes because of that too. But again, it doesn't mean they're never going to come on board. It just means it takes a little bit more time. It doesn't mean they're not already on board and we just haven't announced them yet too. We do have licenses in big companies that are on board currently that we just can't talk about. So until the time is right, until it's strategic for us and makes sense for them per request and things like that too. So keep that in mind. But yeah, there's nothing that really sways us for games one way or the other. Yeah, if it's on an arcade, I definitely want to bring it in. If it's a newer game releasing that is not necessarily an arcade game, but works really well in an arcade, Donut Dodo, great example of that too. Galacticon, great example of that too. Even Dead Cells, great example of that too, because it works really, really well in our system. Metroidvanias and things like that. So yeah, no real limits to that stuff. It's a good question. Sorry if I went off on a tangent. I do that sometimes. Let's see here. Okay, I'll take one more question. Let's see here. Other stuff that I can actually answer. Let's see. I'm not taking game-related questions that I can't answer, of course. I'm just not going to waste the time on it. I can never tell you all the things that are happening behind the scenes. It's never going to happen. It's how it goes, guys. Ooh, this is a fun one. You know what? I'm going to take this one, actually. This is one time I'm going to do this probably. Will there be a new Christmas-themed game released this year? Yes, there will be. Will you like it? Maybe. Will you hate it? I don't know. We'll find out, right? Christmas-themed game, though, yeah. Because we had one last year, just in case you guys didn't know, from In-City Games. So released Santa Throw last year, too. We do have another one from a developer lined up for this year as well, too, yeah. Soon. TBD. Okay, that wasn't a real... I'll take another actual question too that I can answer. Again with this question, you'll have to watch the replay. What's the best soccer game for iiRcade? Subjective. I like Evolution Soccer. I think that is my favorite, personally, on the system currently, too. Not to say Big Striker or Goal, or bad games by any means, too. Evolution Soccer kind of scratches the itch for me. It's a little bit more higher on the complexity level. So I like the more complex games. But if you like a simpler game, Big Striker, Goal is a little bit better. I like Big Striker a lot, too. Goal is great as well, too. Very similar to Big Striker. But Evolution Soccer has a lot more challenge to, a lot more depth and detail to not just the characters and the teams, but the way you play the game. So mechanically speaking. All right. And with that, that's it. So I'll call it a day on that one, actually, too. And I'm missing another question, too. Let me see. I know there's a lot of questions in the chat. Can I talk about how we optimize games? Sort of. I see a couple of questions on this too for optimizing games. So how do we optimize our games? It depends. If we do it in-house ourselves, we have our own methods of doing it. If a lot of times it's the developers themselves doing it as well too, keep that in mind too. They work tirelessly as well. Keep that in mind. We work with a lot of developers, such as say like .emu does their own, as well as oh my gosh, who does Riptide and Beach Buggy and things like that? Why can I think Vector Unit? Thank you. Shout out to Vector Unit. I love those guys too. Yeah, so like Vector Unit say, they, I mean, their game's ported pretty easily, honestly. However, they do the optimization themselves, right? So big shout out to those guys. They do that themselves too. Games like Dragon's Lair and stuff that we put on our system, we optimize that in-house ourselves. Those are our projects. Any of the arcade games you see are optimized for our system specifically by us as well. That's all done in-house. Yeah, we have our own team that does that. So how do we do it? A lot of different ways, honestly. It depends on the game. We try to get them running as best as possible. And there's still certain things, too, that I want to fix in the system, too. I know the pesky pause issue does plague some of the games, especially the titles a lot. So with messing with sound sometimes, I can delay the audio a little bit, too, pausing too much on a game, too. Again, some of these games just aren't really meant to be paused. It's really hard to fix that with, like, emulation, things like that. But we're trying. It's not impossible, and there's definitely better ways that we can improve it, and we're working on that kind of stuff too. Again, these are features that we've had for a while that I want to go back to, revisit, and work on again. Pause is one of them, right? So pause and making it better and just improving it overall, generally speaking, better usability for the systems. on top of not just tacking on new features all the time, right? So I know you guys want other features too that we are working on as well. However, I don't just want to keep tacking on features because then it's just feature creep. We need to make sure that things are working right. You need to backpedal a little bit sometimes and just make sure, go back to home base, clear up some of the roots a little bit too, right? Prune it, weed it a little bit too, weed out the garden a little bit too. Make sure things are really working the way you want them to work, and doing all that stuff too. So we do a lot here. Again, we added bug fixes on the back ends in every single firmware update that you guys just don't even see, that we don't necessarily announce. Software release notes are going to be great for that one when they come out on the system, right? We try to talk about them here and release them as well too on like the community feeds, like the Facebook community and things. However, I would like to, of course, see them on the system right after an update to show up as like a system feed where it just pops up, shows you a message, just like, hey, this is, update whatever. Here's all the things we changed, right? So that's things that we're working on optimizing in the future, right? So other optimizations outside of games. There we go. Let's see here. Anything else that I can go over real quick before I head out for the day? Well, for the day for you guys. Let's see. Do I need to, what's going on my feed here? Do I need to manage my feed real quick here? Let me see here. Okay, well, nothing crazy, nothing egregious I can see right now. Anyway. No, I cannot talk about other developers that I can't talk about either too. You see here. Let me see here. Do I need to prune some things here? Okay. Anyway. All right. Going off on tangents. I'm not letting this happen. I'll look at this later. I don't have a lot of time. All right. I will take one more actual question based on games or software for the system right now, and that is it for the day. That's all. Call it a day too. And you guys can tune into all the shows later on. I know it's Friday night. Everybody has a ton of shows on tonight too. Tune into all of them too. So we support a lot of these guys, pretty much everybody, honestly too. The only official show, of course, that we have is our other show, iiRcade Zone, which is now on Tuesdays, right? So play along with those guys with King Creole as well as No Quarter over there on iiRcade Zone, now on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. CST, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right? So we changed that time a little bit too. Let's see here. Okay. If there's no other questions in my chat, I'm going to go, and I'm going to look at my chat later on and start banning people, it looks like, is what's going to happen. So that's how it goes. You think I'm afraid to drop ban hammers because I do it all the time, by the way. It's usually just me. So because, I just don't like people disrupting my chats and things like that too. What is happening here? Thanks for the updates. Great. All right. That's it. That's all I got for today. Without any other questions, I'll call it a day, right? And I'll go through all that stuff later. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please update your systems. Make sure you get your nice Yule log again, too. Hope you're enjoying the Yule log. And again, if you don't, so sorry. It's going to remain for the next month probably or so, too, while the holidays are going on, too. Most people seem to like it. That's why we brought it back. So the general vast majority do. But if you don't like it, jump into a different track mode of the other games, of course. But it will change each week, to keep that in mind. So just as a heads up on that one, we do that here. That's kind of been a thing for a while now, right? For about a year. Other features and stuff like that, stay tuned. We will be back soon, probably next Friday, honestly, too. If not, probably the Tuesday following that, we will do our big holiday year-end wrap-up. Because we always like to do one of those, too, and I'm planning for that kind of stuff right now. Coming around the corner, too, and we'll talk about some bigger stuff coming up then, for sure, too. I'll probably save most stuff for that. Other games coming up, too. Of course, Vigilante has been announced. Ninja Baseball Batman coming up at some point here, too. As well as other games that you guys don't even know of yet, too, which I'm very excited to, which will probably release before the end of the year, I will say. So I'm very excited for these things, too. Leaderboards. Also, some of the leaderboards, games that didn't have leaderboards, are getting added in kind of soon to retroactively add leaderboards onto them now, too, because we have a fix for quite a big handful of games there. I think around 20, honestly, too, which is kind of cool. So going back and revisiting that with one of our different team members and stuff. So fun. Things to look forward to again. Until then, R-Type Leo out now on the store too. Check it out today too. If you have never checked out an R-Type series game, R-Type Leo is a great one to start with too. I definitely recommend the original R-Type or R-Type 2 to start with. However, remember Gallup as well too. Armed Police Force Gallup is still part of the arcade lineup for IREM Games 4 R-Type series, right? So check them all out. They're all available now on the iiRcade. But iiRcade Leo's a new one today too. I've been having a blast with it, honestly, this past weekend, which is great for you guys. So I'll see you all on the leaderboards, things like that. And then I will play you out here actually with R-Type. Let's go here. Sorry, again, ill-prepared today. It's great. It's great. One day. All right. I found my video. All right, cool. Until then, I'll see you all probably next week. If not, tune in the following week for sure on that Tuesday for our holiday year 2 wrap-up, which is going to be great too. We'll go over all the things. We'll have some fun on that one too. Maybe we'll do some giveaways and things like that too to wrap up the year. I'll have some fun with that one too. I'm excited for that show. So until then, thanks for tuning in. Game on.
3, 2, 1.
Let's go.